This is the plaintiff, Brian Jankowitz. He says he and the defendant were friends and they agreed on renting a lake house together. But once the defendant found out it was too far away, he told him he was no longer interested. The guy won't return the $207 he gave him for a house which was much closer. And former friend or not, he's suing. This is the defendant, Ziv Zimachek. He says he and 30 people got together to rent a house, and the plaintiff tried to back out at the last minute. He's sorry, but he doesn't owe him a thing because the house was booked, and he's not giving him back money out of his own pocket, that's for sure. He's accused of defriending a friend.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says that he agreed to rent a lake house for him and some of his friends, but when they arrived, it turned out the house was several hours away from where it was supposed to be. Now, the defendant saying ridiculous. The plaintiff got what he asked for, and he was gung-ho at the time, but changed his mind. It's the case of going mental over the rental.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Jankowitz. Talk to me. What happened?
Sure. For my share in a rental house, I sent Zip $207, and it was for a rental house in Lake George, New York.
How is it that you know Mr. Zamachek?
I believe I met him through a friend of a friend a few years ago.
Okay. And so would you say the two of you were friends?
Yeah, during that time, like for a few years at least.
Okay. So apparently there is a group of people who were getting together and renting houses for fun. And a bunch of people got together in June. Were you part of that group?
For the hiking trip before the rental house, yes.
And was it Mr. Zamachek who put that together? Or no, that was just you guys getting together and going on a hiking trip?
Zib was the one that coordinated the hiking trip.
Okay. So how many people got together in the hiking trip?
Probably like 10 to 20 people about.
All right. So everybody decides, hey, I got a great idea. Let's get together, rent a house for the 4th of July. Tell me how that discussion comes up. Did that come up actually on the hiking trip in June?
Yes, the initial talks were during the hiking trip, and we decided why not do a part 2. And we decided to get a rental house in upstate New York.
Okay. And where was the rental house supposed to be according to you?
The original location was supposed to be in Lake George, New York. However, it was changed to Star Lake, New York.
Okay. When you say the original location is Lake George, when Mr. Zamachek starts collecting money from people, because he had a very specific amount that he collected, the amount was $207. By that point, had he changed it, or what, did you think you were still going to Lake George?
When I sent him the money originally, it was for a house in Lake George. He only said a few days before the departure date that he decided to do a house in Star Lake.
Okay. And how far is Star Lake from Lake George?
So Lake George is about 3 hours and Star Lake is about 6 hours.
Okay, so how was it that you came to realize that he had changed the location? Did he text everybody or what happened?
He put a message in a group chat saying that this is the address of the house and that's how the location changed. He didn't give any notice to anyone.
Did he say to anybody, hey, I couldn't get the house in Lake George, so I got a house here. Is that okay with everybody before he booked that house?
No, he did not say that. He just said in the chat that this is going to be the location of the house.
All right. So at some point you realize when you see the address that that's not Lake George, right?
Correct.
You ask him what's going on. Tell me what you do.
Yeah, I asked him what is happening, and he tells me he couldn't get the house because he did it a few days before because he was still waiting for him to receive money. So he decided because he needed a house fast that he did the house in Star Lake, New York.
Okay. He told you that on the phone or through text?
Through the phone.
Well, let me ask you this. Did other people as well as you start to object that it wasn't Lake George?
Yes, there were other people that objected it.
About how many?
Probably a few. I don't have an exact number.
Okay. So did you tell Mr. Zamachek, I want my money back?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said he's not giving me the money back. You worked too hard and you already agreed on a rental house.
Okay. Did he acknowledge that he had changed the location?
Yes, he did acknowledge that he changed the location.
Okay. So Mr. Zamachek, let me ask you this. Was it supposed to be Lake George?
We wanted to go by Lake George, but we couldn't commit to a specific location because we didn't reserve anything. When Brian paid me, we didn't have location. I never gave him an address because we didn't have a specific location. We were in the process of looking for a place.
Right, but did you, when you collected the money, did you tell people that it was for a vacation in Lake George?
I told him it's a getaway by Lake George, yes.
Okay, but then in the end, you ended up booking something at Star Lake, which is many hours away from Lake George, right?
Yes, it's about 2 hours away.
I'm trying to understand then what your defense is. Is your defense, I never promised which lake it would be, I just said it would be a lake? Or are you admitting that you had told people it would be Lake George?
The story is this. Me and a few friends each booked location to reserve, because when you reserve a place, they have to approve you. During this time, during this season, it's very busy time, and they denied us from few locations, and I needed to have people to put money to have a count how many people are willing to go to this location that we want to go away. We wanted to go any place by Lake George. Also, the reason Brian wanted to go originally, he asked me, are there going to be girls? He wanted to network, and the location was never a concern for him. People go for the getaway. Now, yes, we did change the location, and I told him also, in addition to this, when I told him, he only told me a day after that he doesn't want to come, which if he really objectified after, he could have told me this immediately that he does not want to go.
What difference would that have made? You know, here's the problem, Mr. Zamachek. When you're putting these things together, okay, you have to have the approval of the people who are paying you. If you say to them, we're going to go to Spain, and then you say, oh, by the way, everybody, we're going to Italy, you can't do that. You can't change it unless you have them all on record saying, yeah, no problem, that sounds good. Because they've already paid you for one thing, and you're changing it to another thing. So I realize you're going through all the effort, okay? I get that. But you know, you still can't take people's money and say, here, I'm selling you A, and then shove B down their throat. You don't get to say that. The way to save yourself from this problem is to send a group text and say, we couldn't get a house in Lake George. This is what I've got instead. Everybody answer me in the next hour, whether or not you're in or you're out, so I can figure out if we can do this. And then if they don't answer you, then I guess you couldn't swing the trip. That's all. But you don't get to say, oh, women and alcohol and fireworks were more important to him than location, just because he figures out that you got a different lake kind of late in the game. If you change the location, why would he not have a right to get his money back?
He never mentioned a location issue.
Yeah, but that's not, you don't get to say, but try the turkey, Judge. The turkey's so good. Just try the turkey. No, if I ordered ham, I ordered ham. Like, you don't get to change and then say, but you're being unreasonable, Judge. That turkey is delicious. It's delicious. You're so unreasonable. You won't even try it. A sandwich is a sandwich. You don't get to do that. I understand your intentions are good, but you still have to follow the law just like everybody else does. Okay? So what did you sell them? You sold them Lake George. It's right here. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for the most epic day of your lives. July 4th weekend, July 3rd through the 5th, Lake George. It's time to celebrate. That is what you sold them. People gave you their money, and then you ended up changing it. You don't get to change it without consulting the people who are paying for it. You do not.
And he also told me that he's threatening to fight me and send them to me also. And he threatened to fight me also. So not only this, he was calling me nonstop and harassing me.
Do you have any proof? Do you have any proof that he threatened to fight you?
He did tell me
Mr. Zamachek, that's great. Mr. Zamachek, bad things are happening to you. I'm ruling against you in court. Okay, someone trying to collect their money isn't a threat. All right? And you don't get to sell them something that you don't deliver on and then get so snooty about whether you're returning their money. He's 100% correct. You need to return his money. $207 plus your court costs plus prejudgment statutory interest from the moment that you paid him the $207, because this is a contract case. And you are breaching the contract, Mr. Zamachek, and Mr. Jankowicz deserves his money back because you breached the contract by changing locations without getting an approval from the person who paid you. That is my verdict. Good luck, folks.
So the plaintiff, Brian, is going to get his $207 back from the defendant. Mr. Zamachek, number one, are you surprised at the judge's decision or not?
I'm very surprised. I think it's very unjustified, the decision. I don't think it's correct. We never had a contract. and it's totally upsetting me that it's not the correct decision, and I'm very surprised, yes.
Sorry about that. That's the way it goes. All right, Mr. Jankowicz, let me ask you, are you sorry you didn't go or not?
No, I'm not sorry, because to go for 2 or 3 days and travel 12 hours total, you're barely going to spend any time there. So I don't regret it whatsoever.
All right. Well, good decision on your part. Okay. Congratulations. You get your money back. All right, Harvey. How about it? What do you think?
So, Doug, this is an interesting case because what the judge is really saying is sometimes there can be a violation of a contract, but it may be a minor violation, so it really doesn't affect the deal and nobody's going to get anything. In a situation like this, the judge is saying this was a material fact. It was an important fact, and that's why the defendant lost this case, because where the rental was located is key to what the plaintiff really bargained for.
The question is, after a night at my apartment, my ex-girlfriend threw up on the couch, ruining it, and she won't pay me to have it cleaned because she says I cooked her a bad dinner, and it's my fault she threw up. Should I sue her, and will I win? Thanks, Arnold.
My goodness. Okay. At the outset, I'm wondering why Arnold wants to throw up this lawsuit in response to what happened that night. If really girlfriend and boyfriend, maybe he should think it over a little more before he starts hurling these sort of accusations back and forth.
I'm not worried because a good judge will toss it out.
Potentially. Very good. But in all honesty, it sounds like if she got sick because he made her bad food, something that was either poisonous or just not good, and caused her to throw up, then her position is going to be that
it's not her fault.
It's not her fault. And causation, the real cause of what happened, is on him.
Yeah, and it's kind of, whether or not she can prove that his food was bad, at the end of the day, it's not like a deliberate act. And I suppose you still have to, clean up after yourself and pay damages if you ruin somebody's thing. But if she's got a good excuse and he's never going to be able to disprove it, seriously, he needs to kind of move on.
He needs to take his lumps or take his chunks or something. he needs to
move on from his ex-girlfriend. It just seems so vindictive. Just move on.
Really does.
Yeah.